Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrating the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! Hello, everybody. This is Blade Daily, and this episode of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out, a pro wrestling podcast about pro wrestling. I am joined, once again, I should add, by my very good friend, good man, good person, great wrestling fan of the great Graps, Antione Raphael. Antoine, welcome, sir.
Hello. Thank you. 2 weeks in a row. I am honored.
Well, and these fine people don't know it yet, but it's going to be 3 weeks in a row by the time we're done, because next week, we talked about it at the end of last episode, but in a bit of scheduling stupidity, I didn't realize that the Best of the Super Junior, we wouldn't actually be able to watch the final before this episode. So we're moving that to next week. Joshi J will be back with us. Joshi G, I believe, will be back with us. And Antoine will be here, and we'll be talking all about New Japan. But this week, Antoine, we're going to focus on the week that was AEW, because it was one hell of a week.
It was a fun week.
It was a damn fun week. We're going to talk about Double or Nothing and some of the fallout from that. We're not going to go match by match, through the intricate details. Look, it was a week ago. You guys have already had enough of that. But we're going to talk about the big moments, the standout moments, the moments that surprised us, and the moments that didn't surprise us, in both good and bad ways. I mean, who knows? But yeah, the first thing we're going to talk about might be perceived as bad, but Antoine, I don't think it's all that bad a thing.
I don't either.
That is the pending arrival of Mariah May in WWE. She's been removed from the AEW roster page as of this broadcast, as of this taping broadcast. God, how old am I? She is rumored to be, it is heavily indicated from both AEW and WWE to the few reputable sources in this business that she's done and she's WWE bound. Sir, how do you feel about this, Antoine?
I don't feel... A lot of people, I believe, are going to be as tribal as we are. Tribalism exists. But I don't see it as a bad thing. Mariah, to me, she came from Stardom. She came fully loaded and locked, and a lot of people didn't think she was going to be any good anyway. She was blonde-haired, looked that way. No, she can't wrestle. People like me who do watch Stardom was like, oh yeah, she can go. And she made such an indelible impression, and Tony would not be timeless without her. But I always felt that she was going to go there. When you look her up on Wikipedia, what does it say? It says she's a pro wrestler / model / entertainer. Right. So you see where she kind of wants to go, and that's a bigger stage. It just is, with more outlets that will have her face plastered everywhere. ESPN, you name it.
Netflix.
And Netflix for the entire world to see.
Right.
She's an excellent wrestler. She's an excellent heel. She was excellent. She did her time. She didn't ask out early. From what I read, the only thing that surprised anybody was that AEW didn't put an option year on her.
Right.
But that nobody was surprised. So I don't think anybody should be surprised, to be honest. I think she's kind of headed where she belongs.
Yeah, I think that, one, Mariah's fantastic. I think she was helped by the story with Tony, but Tony is only as good as she is, like a character as she is, because of the story they told together. And you can't just insert somebody else into that story and have it work the same way. Mariah completely understood the tone of that story. It was kind of like a fucking crazy Hollywood David Lynch style fucking story that's totally different than anything else I've ever seen in wrestling. And Toni Storm is massively over. So no, we don't, you know, the AEW equation doesn't have Mariah anymore. But what we have is one of the most over wrestlers in the business, and that's Toni Storm. And we have people showing up. You know, we've had people show up recently. Megan Bayne. We're going to talk about this very like a little later in the show, but we also had the brand new debut of the Toxic Spider, Tekla, which I think, like, that's a great trade, okay? But what I would say is Mariah came in, she did a fantastic job. She worked her ass off. She was an Iron Woman. I mean, she was on TV every fucking week.
Every week when she won the title. Yes, she was.
Yeah. And she wrestled constantly, and she went hard in every single match. She bumped like a maniac. She didn't take it easy. She didn't coast. She did everything you'd want somebody to do. This, to me, might be the most mutually beneficial short-term pro wrestling relationship I've seen in years. So yeah, maybe it's surprising that there wasn't an option year, but maybe she was insistent that there couldn't be an option year, and this was just too good for Toni to pass up. But if you think about it, her character arc in AEW was perfect.
It really was, from her time trying to be the cute, adorable, innocent face to the devious person that she became. And I became a major fan of the way that and it's so, to me, so beneficial to AEW what she did. She helped to not necessarily legitimize, but at a time when AEW was kind of struggling with putting women on television constantly, spreading out the roster, they were always able to go to Mariah and Toni. Now, not having Mariah actually forces them to not be able to use her as a crutch, because I'll admit, until it became official, I kind of wondered, I wonder what they're going to do with Mariah when she comes back. Who are they going to put her with? Because her character was it's so great, but it's so centrally focused on timeless Toni Storm. How will it work with somebody else? And we'll never get to find out. But it lets others finally get a shot, finally get that spot, finally get that time on TV.
Yep.
And I think it was beneficial for all. And I wish her well.
Absolutely. I wish Mariah nothing but the best. She did a great job. I understand if people are disappointed. I think they could have made it work if she came back, you know, of course. But think about this. Think about this, the story and how it wrapped up for just a sec, right? She comes in, you know, she's this total simp for Toni. I will never forget Toni being like, head, bosom, now, you know, and Mariah like puts her head against her bosom.
I love those.
Their reactions to each other were so good. And then Mariah starts dressing as Toni and paying tribute to Toni, who's really a egotistical moron who like doesn't realize that, you know, Mariah is totally just buttering her up, right? The heel turn when she wins the Owen was masterful. So violent, so good.
Chef's kiss.
Oh my God. Their match at All In was so good. When Toni came back, the way they brought her back. Oh, do you think I've forgotten? You know, after Mariah attacks her, when she reveals that this was all a ruse and that she was actually playing the old Toni Storm playing Toni Storm. And then they had a great match in Australia that was super brutal. And
5-star rated.
And then the Hollywood ending. That was a fantastic match. And what I think one of the undertones of that, and what I appreciate so much about Mariah as a performer, is this was a character that was obsessed with her own beauty and said over and over again, how much better looking she was than everybody else, how much better than the women's division was. She was trying to kill the women's division. And in that match with Tony, she gets bloodied and beaten and made ugly in this way and gets finished off and kind of served her just due.
Her comeuppance.
It's so obvious that was her intention. And so hats off to her. She did a great job. WWE is getting a hell of a talent that I won't be watching, but you know what? Good for her. Go do you. Go do what, athletes have such brief careers, and it could end at any time. Go do what makes you happy, A loss, sure. But there's a void that's going to be filled easily by Mina Shirakawa, by Tekla, by the other talents that aren't on the show much right now. Chris Statlander, hello.
Sky Blue has just come back.
Yeah, and she's back with Julia Hart, who isn't been on the show that much. So I think that there's this division is in such better shape than it was when Mariah showed up. And that's a testament to her in a lot of ways. She gave people a lot of some of their best matches. I got to see her defend the title against Willow at Wrestle Dream. That was a great match. That was a really good match.
Excellent match.
Super fun. I'm glad I got to see her live. Hats off to her. I hope you become a huge star. Good for you, Mariah. It is time to talk AEW DON Double or Nothing 2025 from Glendale, Arizona. Antoine, this was a weird show on paper because
it was.
It's the first time I can remember. I mean, I guess there's been other matches that went on last, but it's rare that the world title isn't defended on the show. I guess that's happened before, but it was like in very early days. AEW, the men's world title, I should say.
Exactly.
And this was one of those cards where the men's world title wasn't being defended. The main event was not a title match. And they didn't announce much for it until right before the show,
It felt a little thrown together just a little bit. So you're kind of sitting there going, where is this really going to go?
But in my opinion, they hit a home run. And it was a really, really fun show with there's always going to be excellent wrestling on an AEW show. But the three big matches that we were probably all looking forward to the most all delivered massively.
All of them.
Oh, my God. I think my favorite AEW match ever happened on this show. And we'll get into which one that is. I think we started with your favorite match on this show. Well, at least one of them, which was Mercedes Moné versus Jamie Hayter in the final of the Women's Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Winner getting a shot at Toni Storm, presumably at All In. I had Jamie Hayter going into this one. The story suggested Jamie to me.
So did I.
There's a part of me that wishes it was Jamie Hayter, but you know what? Great match. Really, really great match.
And you weren't wrong at all. This, from a quality standpoint, honestly, this was my favorite match on the show. Period. Yeah. It's as great as the card was. This was the first match that I wanted to go back and actually rewatch again because I loved the way that it was paced. I loved the way that the psychology of Mercedes really taking it to Jamie Hayter and really making her back the focus, which is why Jamie was out for so very long. And Jamie trying to counter that with nothing but her power.
Yep.
And although the pick didn't go the way we may have wanted,
right,
and the way that the story suggested, I'm sorry, the outcome as from a fan perspective was exactly what I kind of did want.
Look, we're getting Mercedes Moné wrestling for the world title, the women's world title at All In.
Wow.
That's a huge deal. The Mercedes sneaks a win basically over Jamie by doing a small package that was almost like a DDT on the way down
She did drop her on her head. It was kind of, ooh.
Yeah, well, I think Jamie didn't tuck quite enough when she went over, and I'm glad she's okay. That's the most important thing. This was so physical, though. I have to give it to Mercedes. She is a very petite woman. For her to wrestle the way she wrestled in this match versus someone, substantially bigger than her who wrestles a very hard-hitting style, and to just go full throttle the way they did was so cool.
She wrestles very much twice her size all of the time.
And I think it's a testament to her that you don't notice that she's as small as she is because she holds herself like she's so much bigger. I heard somebody say that about Chris Jericho one time, was that Chris Jericho's in real life like 5'10", 5'11", but he acts like he's 6'4", and he carries himself like he's 6'4". So you don't even notice how much smaller he is than like Triple H or like, these bigger, taller people. He knows how to carry himself in a way that makes it look like he belongs. Mercedes does the same thing. I was saying this to Joshi G offline is I'm getting big Manami Toyota vibes from Mercedes right now. She is that she can do anything right now, and she just keeps getting better. I think she's improved even since she came to AEW in the ring.
She has. Oh my gosh. It's a testament to her because she backs up every single solitary word that she has said. This was about a real women's world revolution of wrestling.
Yep.
She helped to bring along the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Mm-hmm. She tried it with the IWGP, but she, got hurt a little bit. Mm-hmm. When she did get hurt, she put over Willow for the Strong Championship.
Called it on the spot, too.
On the spot. No one else did that. And to spend as much time wrestling the numerous different talent that she has wrestled, mm-hmm. particularly what she did for Chris Statlander in their series, is a testament to how damn good she is. There's nothing nobody can say anymore about Mercedes Moné.
Well, they still find a way.
They do.
I just ignore the shit out of those people at this point.
They get blocked and muted.
Hey, she's a perfect fit for AEW. I said this to Joshi forever ago. She's a perfect fit for AEW because she has this whole group of people that are trying to completely wipe her from existence and delegitimize her at every turn. That fits right in with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and all these other people who have this whole section of haters who think they don't know how to work. And yet this whole other group of people like us who are like, these are the best wrestlers in the world. What are you talking about?
In the world.
Mm-hmm. So like, this was just a wonderful match. I am so excited. That is a huge money match for Mercedes. And presumably, Tony, if anybody hasn't watched Double or Nothing, what are you doing? Order it. Okay. Even though we're going to tell you the results, damn, it's worth seeing, son. Moving right along. FTR beat Daniel Garcia and Nigel McGuinness, which wasn't a surprise.
No.
I was a little shocked that there wasn't more of a story beat at the end of this match. I thought Daniel or Daddy Magic would turn. Yeah, I thought there would be maybe more story beats at the end of the match, but Daniel Garcia passes out in a sharpshooter after Nigel McGuinness got shatter machined on the outside. Cool spot. I liked the involvement of Tony Schiavone in the match. I thought FTR's dickheadishness in this match was the real star. And Cash Wheeler particularly. One of my favorite spots in this was Nigel having Cash's arm like behind his back. And he's like, you apologize to Mr. Schiavone.
Was that not funny as heck?
And Cash goes, Cash goes, I'm sorry, Mr. Schiavone. And then like a minute later, he knocks Nigel down and he runs back and he goes, I have my fingers crossed, you old shit. That's some old Memphis shit right there. That was funny.
Yes.
Stokely Hathaway was great in this match. they've been like figuring out how to match each other's energy since they united FTR and Stokely, and it's really coming together nice.
It really did at this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And the match was the match.
It was fine.
It was fine. It was fine. But it was really about them being dickheads and just giving Tony as much crap as possible. I did feel it kind of ended on a whimper. It kind of did.
Yeah, it felt a little anticlimactic at the end.
Yeah, I was really hoping that your prediction would come true and that Danny Garcia would just turn and all hell would break loose. But unfortunately, no hell broke loose. But I think that's still true to Nigel's character. I think we'll see when it comes to Daniel Garcia, maybe taking this loss with his tail tucked between his legs. Maybe he decides that they were right all along.
Well, that's actually what I think is going to happen, is like they kept him off TV to sell the beating, and Daddy Magic got beat up too. I think maybe they both turn. And good luck getting the crowd to boo Daddy Magic, but I could also see him turning on Daddy Magic, and still, that being how he kind of proves his loyalty to FTR. But I think Danny needs something for his character. Danny Garcia, managed by Stokely Hathaway. Come on.
That would be gold. And I think that it would probably give him an opportunity to find some new tights to wear too.
Please.
With some different colors. Please.
For the love of God. Our buddy Joe said in a chat I was in with him, I'll start feeling sorry for Danny again when he de-Hoganizes. I just try to pretend he looks like a Slim Jim, like Macho Man from the Slim Jim commercials, but it's not a good look. Danny, get rid of the red and yellow, bud. It's just not working.
Please.
It's a distraction that you don't want.
He's from Buffalo. I'm sitting there going, I'm a Dolphins fan. Why don't you put on some Buffalo Bills colors and let me really hate you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, talk to the Butcher. He has some Buffalo Bills inspired gear. Well, it's okay though. We didn't have a lot of like any real segments besides just the matches on this show, but every time we do a prediction show now, it feels like I predict like 17 heel turns and none of them happen. Or maybe one will happen, but AEW's doing
You love your abject chaos.
I do. And AEW, well, and sometimes it shows me like how WWE-ified my thinking could be. This was good for what it was. All right, moving on. If you notice a change in the audio for Antoine, it's because he had to switch to his phone from his computer. So they're using different mics, but still sounds good. All right. So next was one of the kind of unexpected highlight matches for me. We had fucking Ricochet has literally turned the name Trevor into a slur. Like, it's like calling somebody Trevor now is like an insult. I love this man. Is he the best heel in the business right now?
Oh, that is not too far off base, I don't think. I mean, he really has. Just saying the name, say it with disdain. Trevor. Don't be such a Trevor.
You're being real Trevor-ish right now,
And even with all of these bald people in these beautiful, beautiful bald people in this world, including myself.
You are a beautiful bald man.
Thank you. You've got people even that are bald holding up signs saying you're bald. That's how invested they are into getting on this guy's nerves or thinking and believing that we're getting on his nerves, which we got to be. But he really is just like a little cockroach that just won't die. And I love him for it.
One of my favorite things that he did before the match on the pre-show was he cut a promo and he's like, "Oh, Mark Mark Briscoe, I'm going to put you on a stretcher and take you to the ambulance. And then I'm going to put you inside the ambulance. He finds a way to say a word weird almost every week now. And it just becomes like he's just so grating and annoying and hilarious.
And people don't realize that that ambulance, he's it's funny to me because it's really kind of ghetto, it's kind of hood. So
yeah, right,
really
right.
Doing that on purpose to
like have some like legit cred, like it's just he is such a goof and like such a poser, and this is real heel shit. This is like almost kind of Memphis-y again, where it's like you are supposed to mock this man and hate this man and yell shit at this man, and you yelling bald at him is it's making him happy. It's what he wants you to do.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that it doesn't make any sense. So what? He's bald.
No.
Who cares?
Yeah. Who gives a shit that he's bald? He's fucking Ricochet. You see the shit he does.
You see the shit he does. You've seen his wife, so I know she is perfectly fine with him being bald.
Yeah, Samantha, but hello.
It's just the fact that it gets under his skin, or that he wants you to get under his skin. He wants you to believe that it's under his skin. And I have never seen this Ricochet until he came to AEW.
Nobody had.
And that includes even his time in New Japan, WWE. I never knew he had this in him. And he couldn't have had a better foil than Mark Briscoe, of all people. The baby face of all baby faces, who comes out with a mohawk. And I'm like, dude, you're just as bald. You're hanging on for dear life, buddy. And you couldn't have anybody else better as a foil than Mark Briscoe.
Well, and so Briscoe had beaten Ricochet, a few months ago on Dynamite in a very good match. Just a straight wrestling match. He grows spite hair just to get at Ricochet. And then they proceed to just have, they called this a stretcher match, but it's really, I thought it was like an ambulance match, really. But it was so good. The action was great. Ricochet at one point tries to do a shooting star press to Mark Briscoe while he's on the stretcher, and he misses. And Ricochet looks like he kills himself for a minute.
He kind of bounced just a little bit. I was like,
he did.
I hurt for you, brother. I hurt for you.
Yeah. No, he did. And then Briscoe, is there a more likable person in pro wrestling than Mark Briscoe? Like, he's just great.
There's no one. He's on my very short list of wrestlers who really have done a 180 in my own eyes.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. Like, I knew the Briscoes had changed since Jay had made some really terrible comments years ago. I knew that they had apologized and changed and stuff, but I didn't have this much exposure to the Briscoes, quite honestly. I'd seen them in Ring of Honor. I knew they were very good, but seeing Mark just become such a great TV character in addition to his work has been so refreshing. It's just, God damn, this guy rules. And his ring work is insane.
That's what I actually thought was going to be the hardest for him, was actually becoming a regular TV character. That's right. Not something that happened very often in Ring of Honor, and it was very limited.
Right.
But for him to have, and he did double duty on this show, as we'll find out later.
Well, and I love how they tied this match into one of the main matches. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He has entered the rarefied territory that everybody loves, which is you don't even need a title to be as popular or as loved as you are.
Nope. Mark Briscoe could never win a title again, and it would not hurt him one bit. You know, I don't want to see him like as the AEW world champion, you know, like maybe I could see him with a TNT title run at some point down the line, but, you know, probably just brief though, you know, like he's really just a character that's already over. Like I said, the last episode, he's kind of a bushwhacker type character where people just love the guy, whether he wins or loses. And he's
Stop
just kind of
that man a bushwhacker. That kills me every time. Because the first thing I think of is Undertaker. Like,
yeah.
Whoa. But
hey!
Yay.
Yeah.
God, that used to make me so happy as a kid.
Oh,
But
yeah, for sure. And you remember when they had the manager guy for a little while, the nerdy guy?
oh God, yes. I can't remember his name though.
Was his name? His name wasn't Eugene, was it?
Was it Harvey?
No, it was
Whippleman?
Jameson. It was Jameson. That was his name.
Okay.
And they lost every feud, almost every match they had, really. If they weren't against jobbers, they lost. But like, the crowd loved those guys. I'm not saying he's anything like the Bushwhackers as far as a wrestler. He's much, much better than either one of those guys could ever dream of being. But he's just charismatic and impossible not to love. And you know, the Bushwhackers embrace the goofiness of their gimmick and everything so wholeheartedly.
And he does exactly the same thing.
Exactly. They just kind of won you over in time. And Briscoe won me over much faster. But no, he's just a great character, and I love Mark Briscoe. So this match, you know, Ricochet's pulling his usual antics, but at one point he removes the padding off the stretcher and he bashes Briscoe's head into it, and you start seeing blood pile up on the stretcher, and it looks like a movie, like a horror movie kind of on the stretcher. Yeah. And then it starts to become a little more serious. Ricochet finally pulls out the scissors and he gets Mark with them once, but Mark takes them from him and Ricochet runs away, but he had a backup pair of scissors that Mark didn't know about. He stabs Mark with those, throws him on a stretcher, throws him in. There's also one other spot in this where they were fighting near the ambulance that I forgot to mention. That was, he had thrown Mark in the first time, and he turns his back to like try to close the other door, and a crutch shows up to block the door from closing. Total Looney Tunes like moment where Mark just does everything hilarious. He's just funny.
Yes, he is.
He's just everything that's fun about pro wrestling.
If there is anything that I love the irony of is Ricochet running around with a pair of scissors. Because I'm like, what hair you got to cut? You ain't got nothing to cut. But you
like,
always
why do you even have
scissors?
Like, why would this man of all men even have a pair of scissors? Like, you fucking cutting construction paper, you making art projects backstage. Like, what are you doing with scissors? But yes. So yeah, you're right. I never even thought about that, but that is more cognitive dissonance of the Ricochet character. So he hits Mark with a surprise pair of scissors Mark didn't know were there. He throws him on the stretcher, puts it in the ambulance, and closes the door. Ricochet wins. Mark was a bloody freaking mess.
He knows how to bleed.
That boy knows how to bleed, man. Like, holy crap. Like, he really looked like Texas Chainsaw Massacre victim. Like, unbelievable. And, you know, the ambulance is driven away and you don't see it for a while. But this was one of my, you know, preferred matches of the show. I really, really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it's like the best match or anything, but it was really good.
No, this wasn't a classic 5-star match. It wasn't meant to be. It was just meant to be fun. And that's what it was. It did its job. It was absolutely fun.
Yes, I agree with you. The Hurt Syndicate beat the Sons of Texas in a match that was predictable, but also better than I thought it might be. It wasn't a bad match. It just was very predictable. Like nobody thought Sons of Texas were going to beat the Hurt Syndicate.
No one.
So what was the point? And again, this being on a pay-per-view, when I saw some people say there were a few matches they thought could have been on a Dynamite. This is the one I felt that way about.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And I think it was really just there to give MJF something to do.
Yeah.
I admit I am one of the few people who do not like his involvement in all of this at all, but it is showing some steps of progress when you see how many times he's trying to help and screws up. And then, so he's an earnest young guy, and you see him and Bobby at the end, and you think Bobby's just going to deck him, and they smile, they hug, and then they go finish their business. So at least for now, we know the Hurt Syndicate is all on the same page together.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you got that in, because I was going to say you have a perspective on this that, you didn't really like the whole MJF being involved in the first place.
No, I really didn't. And it really has to do with, very bluntly, and coming from a Black perspective, is honestly, can we have something to ourselves?
Well, sure.
Is he here just... Are we using the Black faction to just elevate him, and there's nothing that's going to come from it for the Hurt Syndicate? Yet, sure, they're the tag team champions, but I just didn't like I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of it. And some of the comments that he would make, like when he realized he was a member, saying, calling some people honkies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
In order to appeal, quote unquote, to his new teammates, was kind of tone deaf. But I'm trying not to hate it too much.
Well, and I think that's an important perspective for people to hear. I think that for me, because I'm planning on this being short term and ending up in more of a faction war that maybe ends up involving somebody like a Cedric Alexander showing up, I would not like it if these guys were used as his lackeys, because that's really minimizing an act, demographics aside, that's really minimizing an act that's already super over. To put somebody else over who doesn't really need that help. Like MJF's over too. Like I don't know. I don't want this to go on super long, but I think All In is probably the sunset date for a lot of this. So it's not as far off as it seemed even a short time ago. So we'll see where they arrive. There was, I said this on Brett's podcast, there was a tell when they signed the contracts, which was when Smart Mark and MJF were backstage and they were talking to the lawyer for the Hurt Syndicate after the Hurt Syndicate left, and then MJF shook his hand and then wanted to wash his hand. It's like there's clearly like some level of like manipulation going on here. So
exactly.
So I think that will come to roost. The Hurt Syndicate are barely heels, and MJF's not going to stay a heel if he stays with them. So it's like and at this point, especially in light of everything that happened after Double or Nothing, you don't need more baby faces anymore. You need heels. So Max cannot stay with these guys and stay a heel, because these guys are going to end up being baby faces too. Because Shelton and Bobby just have too much presence. MVP is too good at what he does to stay heels. So, I think that's about all I have to say about it. I thought the match was good. Good effort by everybody. Dustin looks great for his age, but looks
Still
good
kicking.
Yeah, he looks good for any age. And I thought, for all the criticisms I've made of Sammy, he looked really good in the ring in this one. I liked his aggression.
That's the one thing that I did like, and I almost felt like the match was put together because of the fact that both him and Dustin were on the original AEW show to
Yeah.
begin with. So
Right.
let's give them a reward. And Sammy has been a loyal guy to the company. He's had his ups and downs. He's been kind of an asshole. And he's been checked for it. And he better not go back to being that person. But I think this was his first step back to where we all hoped he would achieve.
What I liked was that he ran right at Bobby Lashley. He ran right at Shelton. He showed Leo Rush is doing this too, where it's kind of this like using his size as an advantage instead of a disadvantage, which is always how size is portrayed. Leo has been doing this thing lately where he's like kind of like strangely brutal as a small guy. Like Leo's shorter than me and I'm not tall. And but like when you see him in action wrestle, like they're like junior road warriors almost. I mean, they are vicious. And Leo's using his speed as a weapon in a way that's a little different than I've seen him use it before. And I think that's fresh and cool. I really, really liked it. And I liked it from Sammy, I got to say. The next match was definitely another match that you said was this and the Mercedes match were your favorites. We had Speedball Mike Bailey versus Kazuchika Okada. Talk about a match that was thrown together and with very little build, but Jesus Christ, I was glad it happened. Holy shit. These guys had a battle. It got a decent amount of time, 16 minutes or so. And Speedball has quickly become one of my favorite guys in the company. I mean, unbelievable. And it's great to see a full speed Okada match every once in a while.
Okada, to me, and I think I said this last week, he is absolutely one of the more solid pay-per-view performers you can have. No matter who you put him in the ring with, he is going to have an excellent match. I didn't think this match would be as excellent as it was. And I'm so happy because it was probably, of any of the matches, it was one of my top 2 or 3 to watch to go with Mercedes and Jamie. There's no wasted motion. There's no wasted moves. Everything counts. He knows his cardio. He can go 15 minutes. He can go 55. And as much as we love to make fun, well, I know I love to make fun of Mike Bailey because he's just so adorably sweet with that hilarious promo that he did with Kenny Omega, which I still think is hilarious.
Kenny, I love you. I mean, like he almost basically said that. Yeah.
Oh, such a good impression.
Please hug me.
You're my idol. He is so damn good in the ring, and he is quickly becoming one of my favorites too. Seeing him on a regular basis, I've seen him on the Indies. I've seen him in Best of the Super Juniors in New Japan. And even then, he didn't go as hard as he's going here.
He understands, like his TNA experience was really good for him to have before this because he's used to wrestling on TV. And it's the process of seeing him every week that he just like ends up, you just develop this excitement about him because he has so much in-ring charisma that it's hard to explain. He is just really, really captivating as a performer. And I thought he was great. I thought when he tried to do the back-flipping knee thing and Okada caught him with that badass drop kick.
Oh, that was so beautiful. Oh, that was
perfectly
beautiful.
timed. Perfectly timed. These guys, I hope they get another match, and I hope down the line, maybe it's a year from now, but I hope down the line Speedball actually gets one over on Okada. I think that would be a huge win for him. And I think at some point he might be at that level where he's like, upper mid. I mean, he's already upper mid card And I think he could eventually be in the main event picture. He could be, I don't think you'd want a ton of this, but he's one of those smaller guys that I think honestly could be there. He's really, really good. So, and that's kind of all I can say about the match. It was just really, really good. The next match was a match that I have quite a bit to say about, only in the respect of the work that Mina Shirakawa has done as an in-ring performer and how much she's improved in such a short period of time, since even I've really been aware of her and watching her. I'm not like a hardcore Stardom follower, but I had seen her a few times over the years, and I thought she was fine. She's obviously a very beautiful woman, et cetera, but at the end of the day, you need to be able to go. And
exactly.
And Mina has leveled up so much. Her match with Mercedes back at Wrestle Kingdom, and then her match here has shown so much growth to me. She had a match with Tekla as well in Stardom. That was extremely good. This lady has come a long, long way in such a short time. Tony did get the win in this match, but man, Mina, they got me to bite a few times on some pinfall attempts that on its face, that should be absurd. Tony's obviously winning,
And that's when you've done what you're supposed to do. When we know what the outcome is going to be, there was no doubt Tony was going to win. And you still had that little sliver. Maybe she can do it. Maybe, just maybe. I am one of those hardcore Stardom watchers.
Right.
And she was always exceptionally talented. Mm-hmm. But she has brought another level, especially to AEW. And I think a lot of people are surprised with the level of brutality that she can come with, especially the use of submission, her love of the figure four, and their chemistry is so evident. And it was very, very physical. It was not an easy night for Tony.
No, and I think, the early criticisms of Tony were all in-ring criticisms, right? Like, she was so character-driven all of a sudden that, her matches weren't quite as up to her normal standard, right? And what I've really liked is, since this feud with Mariah particularly, she has emerged as that brutal in-ring warrior again. And I love seeing that, where she's where Tony's, she takes crazy bumps, on the floor. I mentioned this on Brett's podcast, but when Mina set up the chair, Tony's lying down, and then she does the jumping, twisting tornado over a chair onto Tony.
Oh, that was so beautiful.
That was so awesome. And I got to say, I think Mina Shirakawa actually has the best figure four in the business right now. It looks like a submission move that you should tap out to. You shouldn't be able to stay in that move that long, because the way, she gets a different angle on it, and the way she's looking like she's torquing the knee of her opponent is vicious. It's really, really vicious. There's an entire side of Mina Shirakawa that I've only seen a little bit of in Stardom myself, but I have seen it. And I think the AEW crowd is going to freak the fuck out when she fully brings that out. If you hear a Mina Shirakawa promo in Japanese in Stardom, she has a much more serious, scary side. And
very, very much so.
I'm very excited for her to show that. But she really looks like she planned for this debut. She's been preparing for this. She's ready, and she's going full bore already. So she's landed with, nothing but applause from me. And match ends. They sometimes friends kiss, as Taz said. They have a brief kiss, and then Excalibur encourages Tony and Taz to kiss, and they don't. But
thank God.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. But then they move on, and we get to one of the biggest matches of the night, the Anarchy in the Arena match. Antoine, we're not really going to be able to describe much from this match. You got to see it to believe it.
It really was anarchy. I really feel like of all the anarchy in the arenas, there have been those that are more bloody. Yeah. There have been ones that probably were more driven by hatred amongst the participants.
Yep.
But this was the most anarchic. This defined anarchy in a way that you can't really explain. You had 4 different screens. It made me wish they had an option like they do for the college football national championship, where I could just watch one feed and just watch Willow and Marina Shafir go at it for 30 minutes, or watch Katsuyori Shibata and Wheeler Yuta go at it. It was total chaos.
It was so much fucking fun. This felt like ECW with a budget taken to its highest level of chaos that ECW used to evoke from like the ECW arena. It transported me to being a younger person for a while because it did feel like an ECW match. But with the best multi-match wrestlers there's ever been in Kenny Omega and the Bucks, you have them in this match to anchor this thing. There is so much comedy in this. There is so much. The Bucks coming out to the fucking drum roll music with the Founding Fathers announcement was so funny.
I never realized I could hate them so much and laugh at the same time.
That was so funny. And then that's the music that keeps playing at the beginning. And Kenny is like, guys, we gotta do something about this. Then this is AEW's kind of missing this sometimes when it had it a lot in the early days. And part of it, I think, is because BTE isn't around anymore, but the inside jokes, like, then they play I'm So Excited, which was the theme song for the very first night of Dynamite on Max. And a ton of people said they didn't like it. So they play it here, and it's like Tony's trying to get his money's worth because he already paid for this song, right? And Kenny's like, at first, he's like, I don't know about this one. And then he like tries to kind of start getting himself into it. And then Swerve starts getting into it. And then they both start clapping and stuff. And seeing the interactions, by the way, just in general, Kenny is really trying to endorse Swerve lately, it seemed to me.
He really is, and I'm appreciating that very much from Kenny.
Yep.
That he is really endorsing and pushing Swerve right alongside with him. He's not trying to overshadow. Kenny is about elevation.
Yes, and he's we'll get to this in the aftermath, but the new generation of AEW is becoming clear as day, and AEW is trying to make you see it very clearly. And Dynamite only made it clearer who the torchbearer baby faces are going to be for this company. And I just can't say enough about this match. Let's suffice it to say the match ends with an exploding table, one-winged angel, and Swerve stomp with shoes on that have tacks on the bottom. Fantastic match.
And if I may, a spot that just made me cringe as someone who is pierced, who has the 11 piercings, for Marina Shafir to put a lock through that woman's ear, through Willow's ear. And I just sat there and cringed for 10 minutes going, oh my God, please don't move too much. Stay where you are. Don't move, please. And I was just like, referee, please get her out of here. That was,
Willow also provides one of my all-time favorite moments in that moment. I love stuff that's like, it's not even intended to be funny. It's just funny the way it goes down. But Marina chains her up, And she's been like trying to very gently get herself out because she can't move too much, right? Like you just said. And because if she does, she's going to tear her fucking ear. And she just keeps fucking with it, and it's nothing's working. And then finally she just goes, fuck.
Wow, too.
Yeah. It's just the kind of shit you can't plan for, and it was so great. But she just kind of like, she just realizes she's screwed, and she's just like, fuck.
And the moments with her and Hobbs in the middle of the ring, just hulking up with those beautiful shirts, big, black, and jacked. I just popped for it extremely.
Even as a white guy, I was like, that is just a cool fucking moment. You know what I mean? What a cool moment.
Yes, just cool.
Just powerful and in this understated way. And you know exactly why it's badass, you know? But when she was walking around in overalls the whole match, and I was kind of like, you know, okay, that's her hardcore attire. I get it. But then when she pulls the straps down and she has the big black and jack thing, and her and Hobbs do it together at the same time, dude, that ruled. That was just badass.
And I just don't think people realize Willow might be the queen, of hardcore in AEW.
She is. I mean, I think that's objectively true. I think she's been in the most hardcore matches now. Like,
it feels like it.
But they're also doing a little more with intergender stuff, which I think is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because at one point in this match, you know, Marina has choked out dudes. She's looked like a total badass many times. But Willow got her moment. She spears literally everyone in the match, pretty much. She spears both the Bucks at the same time. They sell big time for it. They did everything to make her just look so great in this match. Yes. Baby faces win. It's a big celebration. It's a lot of fun. Gabe Kidd rears his head towards the end. And I did find it funny when, okay, so you didn't even notice that the ambulance was gone, really? So you didn't notice that it was back. But they open the ambulance, after Gabe joins and starts beating down, you know, on the teams, and I had said, you know, I think Gabe's still going to be involved because it's a no DQ match anyway.
Even though I do believe that he didn't bring any value whatsoever, but that's okay.
I think it's a setup to Forbidden Door. I think this is going to Forbidden Door. They're trying to tie it in somehow, but like, it's strained tie at best right now. But who should show up to even the odds but a flipping bloody, like dried blood faced chicken flips off the ramp onto the crew. He was still in the ambulance and had found his way out to even the odds for the baby faces. Mark Briscoe, everybody. It doesn't get any better, man.
It really doesn't. Guy obviously hadn't taken a shower, didn't care, crusted, bloodied all over. You can't ask for anybody more to be a part of anarchy. He is anarchy.
And then they try to limit, you know, how many people are involved so that they can even the odds. And they managed to get Gabe and all the Death Riders into the ambulance and lock him in. And it was just awesome. And then Kenny, one-winged angel, Matt Jackson threw an exploding table. And Swerve then hits Nick with the Swerve Stomp with tacked shoes, which explains why he wore the jacket the entire match.
Yes.
There's probably some padding on that thing. And pins him. Awesome match. Just
awesome.
Even Meltzer gives it a 5-star. It's by far my favorite Anarchy in the Arena match. You know, like you said, there might have been matches that were more personal. There might have been matches that were really great. But this is the best one by a lot.
It was the best by a lot. Mm-hmm.
Yep. I felt really bad for these guys. The Callis family, Konosuke Takeshita, Kyle Fletcher, and Josh Alexander defeated the Paragon, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong by pinfall. This was a really good match. And I will say, Glendale, they brought it this night because this would have been the match to die for, and they really didn't die all the way.
They really didn't. I am very proud of Glendale, Arizona for that, because I thought this match was going to be very quiet and the crowd would not be into it, especially, which would have been understandable, especially with all the time that they just spent with Anarchy in the arena and how much that could take out of you. And they still brought it for this match that was actually very good.
It was look, you can't have this group of people wrestle each other. It's very unlikely they're going to have a bad match, certainly. Mm-hmm. But this was a much better than average match. It was a great trios match. I mean, just people who are used to working together on both sides. And, man, I just loved it. I just thought it was great. And Don Callis was extremely entertaining, as he always is, on commentary. And, yeah, I just loved it. And I think it's setting up bigger things down the road for Kyle Fletcher and Adam Cole, which we got a taste of on Dynamite. We're not going to talk much about that, but there was a match between the two on Dynamite. I think Fletcher is eventually going to take that TNT title from Adam Cole. But they did have a match that ended. It was one of the rare fuck finishes in AEW. Ended with run-in, but this was great. And then finally, our main event, match of the night. And I, like a dumbass, was like, how are they going to follow Anarchy in the Arena? How are they going to follow Mercedes and Jamie? I'm not exaggerating. I watched this match 3 times. Okay. 36-minute match. I watched 3 times. Ooh. This is very possibly my favorite AEW match. Will Ospreay versus Hangman Adam Page. Wow.
That's all you can say.
They got the big match feel perfect for this. They lit the ring differently. The promos that these two cut on each other, the Dynamite before this,
were just perfect.
Will Ospreay's become one of the best promos in the business. I mean, that's crazy. Crazy.
And it was just less than 5 years ago. People were talking while he was in New Japan. Can this guy actually talk? He can't talk. Well, he's proven everybody wrong.
When he first showed up in AEW, they said, look, he's the best wrestler in the world. A lot of people think that, right? But he, the character work will be the problem for him if there is a problem. And boy, were we just everybody. And nobody could have known. Like, that's the thing. Nobody could have known that he was going to be this good. And really from the jump, like, his promos have been really good ever since he got here. And when he comes out for a promo now, I'm excited to hear what he has to say. Like, I really enjoy his promos. They feel very real. They built this match like a WWE main event, like a classic WWE main event. They brought the crowd way down. And there was kind of this tension in the crowd.
There really was that buzz,
Yeah. Because nobody knew which way this was going to go. Now, we all predicted Will Ospreay was going to win this match, okay? That was the conventional wisdom, was that Ospreay would win. Didn't go that way.
No.
But I think they made the right call, because when Hangman won, I was freaking filled with an adrenaline rush. I can't even begin to describe it. It lasted into the next day.
Even I was, and I can be somewhat not down on Hangman, but give him a hard time. And every time, he always steps up. He always does.
He is, I'm going to be putting an article out about this on Sickos Club soon, but he belongs in that best in the world discussion because this guy doesn't have bad matches. My previous favorite AEW match was Hangman Page and Kenny versus the Bucks at Revolution years ago, because that's a great match too, right? But the matches he had with Bryan Danielson, the matches he had with Jon Moxley, the matches he's had with Swerve. Hello.
Mm-hmm.
Hello. Like, this guy, he always delivers.
And you saw, as someone who watched him kind of grow a little bit in New Japan as a part of the Bullet Club.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't see this in him from those days.
No.
So when the Bucks are coming saying Hangman is going to be the main character of all of this, and like, yeah, right. No, he doesn't have it.
I mean, who was right? I mean, like, if you had told me at the beginning of AEW that he would be the main character, like at that first press conference they had, he was the one who showed up and said, I want to be the first AEW world champion. Jericho shows up and gets a big pop. Everybody's shocked that he's there. Like, Kenny Omega isn't even in the company yet. Pac shows up and Hangman's like, nobody else has said it, so I will. I want to be the first AEW world champion. Then he becomes the main event opponent for Jericho at All Out 2019. I was in the building.
Oh, you lucky son.
I was very lucky. But a lot of people were like, he doesn't belong here. He needs to get more serious. He needs to do this. He needs to do that. Then they had an amazing match with each other. They were incredible in the ring together. I saw Jericho win the belt, and Hangman looked incredible in defeat. But this night, he looked incredible in victory. This match was produced to perfection. Every spot counted, all the camera work. It was very New Japan-esque, in my opinion. I loved it. The storytelling in this was superb all the way around. I could try to describe this in detail, but there's no point. Go see this match.
This is the match that deserves you to have seen it, not for us to describe it. And if there's one thing that I love to connect it to Dynamite, there's one thing that I love that I want to just bring up that's kind of related but unrelated, is the fact that he still is the only wrestler I have heard say AEW Men's World Championship.
He always puts the women's world title on equal footing with the men's. I want all of them to do that. I want the announcers to do that. Hangman's setting the example. He is the one who's going to face Jon Moxley at All In, and I couldn't be more excited for that.
Save us, please, Hangman.
Okay. So that's Double or Nothing. We're going to have Gerald here play us some music, and then we're going to come back. All right, we're back, and I couldn't wait for Dynamite. I had watched several of these matches 3 times. I watched the Hangman Ospreay match 3 times. I watched Mercedes Jamie 3 times. I watched Anarchy in the Arena 3 times. I watched Speedball and Kazuchika Okada twice. I loved this show. I had a great time as a fan. It just felt like AEW made all the right moves in the matches where it mattered the most. And even though they surprised me with some of their decisions, I love the surprise. I love Mercedes being as soon as they showed the graphic of Tony versus Mercedes, I was like, that feels huge. That just feels huge.
My heart jumped and got excited. I realized that I got both Owen Hart matches wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm happy about it.
I couldn't be happier to be wrong. I couldn't be happier. Dynamite opens, Hanger comes out, manages to be even cooler after this promo. He basically says when AEW started, and this just, I get chills thinking about it. He says this place was created to showcase creativity and competition and passion and compassion and the basic human dignity that all people deserve. That's what these 3 letters stand for. Holy shit. Contrast that with the Mega Mania shows that are running every single week on Netflix.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, he instantly draws that dividing line between AEW and WWE and what the two stand for, right? And then Swerve's music hits.
Oh, that made me so happy because I sat there and said, "You're going to apologize over here, but there's somebody that needs an apology still." And his music hit at the perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the three of them, and we get to the very realistic, obvious story beat that tells you these are the people that you should be looking out for the next however many years.
Well, and I love how they went back to what the Bucks said the night after, or on the next Dynamite after Revolution or Dynasty. They had said, "Hey, we did this for you, Hangman. We know you never wanted Swerve to be the champion again." That was so smart because I was kind of like a little baffled that they hadn't done that already. But it made perfect sense the way they did it now. See, Hangman and Swerve are going to have to squash this and respect each other, even if they don't like each other, in order for Hangman to be the champion. And who knows that better than anybody? Well, apparently it's Will Ospreay. Because right as Swerve and Hangman are about to beat each other's ass again, by the way, those two in the ring together, just standing across from each other,
is electric.
The two main characters of AEW are Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page. Straight up. Straight up. That's your future. That is your future. And then Will Ospreay comes out. And what a selfless guy he's being right now. He says to Swerve, "Look, I know you're mad. Okay? I know you think he did this thing to you, that he told the Bucks to do that to you, but I know he didn't, because he looked me in the eyes like a man after he beat me. He treated me with respect. I thought it was me. I thought it was supposed to be me taking down the Death Riders and winning that title back. And I know you thought it was you, but it's not me. And it's not you.
Yeah.
It's him. And we get one shot at this, and Ospreay sells the importance. We got to get that title back. We got to get that title back from these guys.
We've got to make AEW whole again.
Yes. Yes. And so now you've got Kenny. You know that they're going to try to bring Hangman and Swerve to the table together. And that Swerve is going to be an integral character into helping Hangman beat Mox.
And guess who's lurking in the wings, whom he beat not too long ago, who's now a part of the Hurt Syndicate?
MJF, right.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they've already got a plan, I think, for maybe Forbidden Door or maybe, whatever. But the way that promo was strung together was so smart and felt so electric. And you're looking at the three faces of AEW right there.
It was literally the first half hour of the show, and I was okay with that. It was that good.
They're doing such good work right now with the promos. They're just crushing the promos. Needless to say, that was a fantastic. I'm like stoked. They got 2 matches announced. We know they're angling towards Okada and Kenny for All In as well, in addition to Hangman and Mox and Mercedes and Tony. Of course, I want confirmation before I go all the way there. But good stuff. And Hangman at the beginning of this promo did something that in wrestling you don't do to a babyface unless they're going to win. He guaranteed that he would bring that belt back and that he would hold it above his head after he beat Mox at All In. Tony is telling you, buy a ticket because you want to see Hangman get crowned. You want this Death Riders thing to be over? It's ending it All In. Okay? So
yes.
You don't have baby faces that you believe in make promises they don't deliver. So that's just an old school wrestling rule that goes back decades. But the other really huge promo that I loved was Timeless Tony Storm and Mercedes Moné.
Oh, that was my favorite. Even as much as I love that first 30 minutes, that promo, that exchange between these two ladies, the amount of um, shooting, the amount of respect amongst each other. It is well known that Mercedes has always wanted to wrestle Tony Storm, and
Yep.
their paths never were able to sync up at the same exact time because the people in Bristol just were not very, I guess, smart.
Yeah.
Because they would have done that.
Right. Instead, they were pie facing her. Yeah.
And the amount of electricity that coursed through the two of them in this promo while showing that amount of respect.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see them try and get each other with their moves and the standoff that happens afterwards. I am thoroughly invested in this title match.
It feels like a huge deal. Like a huge deal. I cannot wait for this match. They're going to have a classic. Mercedes doesn't have bad matches, number one, but like Tony is right in her bag right now. She's incredible right now. And this was the most real she ever came across. This was the most like kind of dropping the timeless shit a little bit to have a serious promo, you know, a more serious
That's what I
focus.
liked.
And I think that's what you got to do for this. You know, not to complain about her at all, because everything she's done up to now has been great. But like, it wouldn't have worked if she was a oblivious goofball. This needed to feel big. That's how you make money. That's how you bring the crowd, right?
And that's how you show the respect to your opponent, who during her promos, even with Jamie Hayter, is very serious and is very into the wrestling aspect of wrestling.
Yep.
She doesn't play. It would have come across as cheesy and hokey if they would have gone that route.
Yep.
So I'm glad that they played it, that she downplayed her character and made it more of a serious promo.
I love that. Yeah.
You're almost, you're reflecting back what you're getting from Mercedes.
Yeah. She modulated. And I think that was really, really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who's trying to evolve their character. The last big thing from Dynamite, really for me, was Jamie Hayter came out for an interview.
Mm-hmm.
And she barely gets 2 words out before the lights cut off. I had a feeling this was what it was. Then the fucking spider shows up on the big screen, and I knew it was our girl.
The Idol Killer.
The Idol Killer. Tekla is here. We know what the spiders have been about. We've known. You and I have known, right? But like, from the first time I ever saw Tekla, I was like, oh, she would be a huge star in America. Like, huge star. And this is why the loss of Mariah May really doesn't bother me.
Hurt as much as, because you're losing someone who's unhinged when she wants to be, with someone who is unhinged because she wants to be, and is that way all the time.
I love that quote. That is incredible.
And I have always had a soft spot for Tekla as a part of Hate. Some of the nonsense that she did, she's even laid hands on the president before. And so she's shown that she can handle doing very unlikable things and not give a damn what anybody else thinks.
She doesn't give a fuck.
And she is absolutely the type of heel that AEW needs completely right now. Someone who, for lack of a better word, is irredeemable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, they need like a badass, evil fucking heel. Tekla's right there. I think the crowd will start cheering for her in pretty short order myself.
Yeah, I think the crowd was not like us. We knew who we were expecting. And it's kind of the same way when Mariah May came in. If you don't watch Stardom or the Indies, you had no idea who she was. But they will find out soon enough.
Well, and her first feud is going to be with fucking Jamie Hayter. I mean, give me that match. I want to see that match. Oh my God. And then last note I had here, two things real quick. There was another intergender tag match on Dynamite.
You notice. Mm-hmm.
And I find this very interesting. They're getting more comfortable with having women in the ring with men. And I don't see them going full TNA where it's like, that's just part of the show now. And then, this woman's wrestling this guy, but it's definitely, they're pulling some of the walls down for sure.
They definitely are. And particularly with certain people, I think that's why Marina has spent so much time with Moxley. And I do like the fact that she was not treated as just window dressing to walk around with a briefcase. That would have been the worst use of her.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with, I've seen the Discord about Marina and her level of talent, but she's about as real of a fighter as you can possibly get. Yep. And I do like them dipping their toes. I agree. I don't want them to go full on like TNA does.
Right.
But you definitely can see that it's starting to become more of a thing that he's comfortable with, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think Tony himself is against it. I don't think that's been the case. I think it's like the network wasn't probably comfortable with it. And now that AEW has been so consistent and delivered so consistently, they're getting more comfortable giving him a longer leash, And then the other thing was in the pre-show of Double or Nothing, we had a match, Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford against Harley Cameron and Anna Jay. Both teams wore matching gear. They had a rematch on Dynamite,
which was off the chain.
Super good. Both matches were really, really fun, but I think we're getting women's tag titles sooner than later. Harley's injured, unfortunately, came out today, that actually her bleeding on Dynamite was fake blood because she got hurt in the first match that they had. So pretty noble of her, but she has to take a little time off. I'm not sure how much, but I really, really, really love the idea of women's tag titles. I've never really been super high on that, but it hit me at one point, like, if you want more women on the show, this is how you do it, like, if you, and put them in the match, like make them real tag teams, like, but Mega Bad as the name for Penelope Ford and Megan Bayne. Megabad? That's a badass name. I loved it.
That's kind of a badass name.
It's a badass name. Yeah, no, I'm all about it. So, and the matching gear looked badass on both of them. Like, I mean, damn.
And they have such a deep roster. We're not even discussing some of the people that you may not see all the time, like the Viva Vans of the world, who would be marvelous for this type of division, and it would 100%. Allow them exposure.
Yep. Yeah, or even like if you can't write her into a single story right now, get Queen Aminata in a good team, but like Sky Blue and Julia Hart, put them in a team if they're not going to be on doing single stuff. You don't want to job them out in singles every time they're on TV. So have them be a tag team. It looks like that's what's going to happen with them too. So what I want to see though is Sky Blue officially join the Hounds of Hell. I think that needs to be the next step. But we'll see. But there's so much we're going to see, and we're going to see it this week. On Saturday, we got Collision, and we got a whole lot of stuff going on. We got Grand Slam Mexico coming up. We got, I'm going to be in attendance at 2 Collisions and a Dynamite coming up in Seattle in June. And, we've got, the finale of the Best of Super Juniors that we're going to be talking about next week with yourself, with Joshi J, with Joshi G, and talking about the state of New Japan, Japanese graps. So maybe we'll have a show where we'll talk about some retro wrestling soon enough. But, my friend, it's always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Anytime.
And that, once again, is my friend Antione Raphael. And I'm Blade Daily. Till next time, pro wrestling forever.